Hi, my name is Michelle Fitzgerald and I'm the training director for the Senzar Learning Center. And we're talking today about, this is part 2 of subtle energy strategies to help you sleep better. And we're talking today about underground water. Underground water creates a type of energy field when it flows under your living space. It creates an energy field above it that dowsers have known. I'm a professional dowser, and dowsers have known about for as long as forever that it's just well known that you don't want to sleep over underground water because it can be very, very disruptive. The energy field that travels with water and just the general nature of water, it's very conductive. And all kinds of, not only is the basic energy field that is created above the moving water, it creates a positive ionization in the path of the stream, the moving stream. But in addition to that, things can piggyback. Subtle energies can actually piggyback on the water. Even psychic energies from neighbors down the way that are fighting all the time. Discordant energies can actually imprint into the energy field that's traveling above the water and get carried into your home. The subtle energy components of electromagnetic frequencies can actually piggyback on these subtle energy streams that are created above the water. And it can just be very, very discordant to the human body and be sleep disruptive, which is what we're talking about. So what do you do? How do you check to find out if you've got an underground water situation? And if you do, what do you do about it? The way you check to see if you have an underground water situation is if you know how to dowse, or if you want to teach yourself how to dowse, you can use something, just a tool like this, a simple dowsing rod. And you can walk the perimeter. I've got a lesson, a YouTube video that will show you how to use dowsing rods. But you basically develop a signal and get that through the other lesson. But you walk the perimeter of your house, and with the instruction to your body that you want the rod to respond when you cross the path of underground water that's traveling under your house. And so you would just walk along, like I might walk, let's say I'm walking along the edge of this house right here, that's in the drawing. I would be walking, and when I hit this blue mark, which is an underground water stream, when I hit the edge of the water, my rod would go like that. I'd get a response that I'm near the water. And then I would just keep on pacing, just walk very slowly across the path of the water. And when I get to the other end, my command would be, show me another response, and my body would give me a signal like that. So that's my particular way of dowsing underground water, is I want a signal like this when I actually hit the edge of the water, and I want a signal like this with my dowsing rod. Okay, so like this and like this when I get to the other end. Now, we might be talking about a 2-inch little stream. We might be talking about a 15-foot body of water moving through the space. It'll vary from space to space, but that's how you can find where it enters the space. You can also find through the same mechanism where it exits the space. And what I usually do is I find where it enters the space, and I just then stand right next to that marker, and I use something called the show me technique. And I just ask my body, and with the help of the rod as an amplifier and communication device, to show me the way the water moves. And I just start tracking. I find the entry point, and I just start tracking the water. I just walk near the edge of the water, and I walk very, very slowly, and the rod just responds, and it'll wiggle and waggle me through the space, and I'll see where the water is going. And I just track it through the house. Now let's say this was the situation that I discovered, where the water was flowing in, and it was cutting right through where a bed had been placed in a bedroom. That would be concerning to me. If I was working with a client, I would tell them I would highly recommend, first strategy would be move the bed. That is the easiest thing to do, is simply move the bed, or choose to use this space as something other than a bedroom. So whoever is occupying the space is not being occupied all the time for many, many hours in a row in the presence of an underground, right in the pathway of an underground water stream. That would be one strategy. Now, even if you didn't know how to do dowsing, or you choose not to learn how to do that, if you're not sleeping restfully, one experiment you could just try is move your bed. simply move your bed or sleep in another room and see if you don't sleep better when you're in a different space. You may never know whether it's underground water or not, but if simply moving your body to a different room allows you to sleep better, problem solved, basically. So number one, you can find out where the water is, if it's intersecting any beds in the house. If it is, it would be highly recommended that you move the bed out of the stream of the water. Not only can underground water and what it carries with it in the energy field of the water be incredibly disruptive to sleep, but there's been huge amounts of research done in the subtle energy research arena, dowsers and others, doctors even, who have researched health impacts of sleeping above underground water, and the connection to cancers and all kinds of icky stuff developing is very strong. So setting aside the sleep situation, which is what we're talking about today, it can lead to other major health problems. So move the bed would be the number one strategy. What if you can't move the bed? Do you have any other alternatives? Dowsers, skilled dowsers sometimes can, not all times, but sometimes can actually move the water. That's beyond the scope of today's program. But if you have any skilled, you might do some research and find out if there are any skilled dowsers in your area. You can contact the American Society of Dowsers, or if you live in another country, the British Society of Dowsers. Most major countries have major dowsing organizations. Find a dowser and see if they can move the water. Again, it's not always possible, and not all dowsers have the skill to do that, but there are those out there that do know how to do it. The other strategy is a subtle energy strategy where you can, again, just even if there's nothing noxious like psychic energies or other what are called geopathic energies, moving imprints of geopathic energies moving with the water, just sleeping above the water alone and the change in the ionization in the space above the water just isn't healthy for you. But what you could do if you absolutely don't want to sleep in another space, if you absolutely can't find another spot to move that bed, and you can't find somebody who can move the water, another strategy that you could use is you could learn how to mitigate create what are called interference patterns, positive interference patterns on the water, so as the water travels through, it actually is imbued with a more beneficial type of energy that then will move through the space. That's kind of advanced subtle energy work, way beyond what we're talking about today, but I just bring it up to tell you there actually are advanced strategies for stuff like this. But most often when you're dealing with underground water, the fix is really simple. If you're having sleep disruptions and it ends up that you do have an underground water problem, simply move the bed. That would be the first strategy. Another thing you can do if you don't want to do the rod dowsing, where you actually find where the water is coursing through the space, you could use simple muscle testing. There's another video you can take where I teach you how to do simple muscle testing. It's called finger dowsing. And you could just stand in each room of the house and you could just ask, is there any underground water flowing under the bed in this room? You either get a yes or you get a no. And so that's another strategy. Just go stand in each room and do that. And you don't necessarily have to know the exact course of the water. Where there is underground water flowing, it will very often in a room where there's underground water, especially if it's got a significant negative charge attached to it, or not so much attached to it, saturated into it, it'll weaken the body. It can affect things measurably, like blood pressure. It can affect strength levels. So other kind of fun experiments you can do. If you have one of those blood pressure machines that can measure blood pressure, you can test your blood pressure. You can do muscle testing to see if there's underground water in any of the rooms. And if you find underground water, you can do some experiments with yourself and actually take your blood pressure outside the zone where the water is and right on top of the water, see if it affects your blood pressure. I've done experiments with people where I bring in a big, brick or something really heavy, and I have them outside the zone lift the object, the heavy object, and then put them right on top of the underground water and say, okay, now lift the object, and they can barely do it. It's that weakening on the human system. So those are just some kind of fun experiments. Bottom line is underground water it has a subtle energy component to it that can disrupt sleep. So pay attention to that. And hope that helps you if you do find that you do have a water problem. Well, now I'm going to end this video and we'll go into video number 3 where we talk a little bit about how your body direction during a night's sleep can affect your sleep patterns as well. So